following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. Bronx Roots. David Hubler, Michael Preminger, me, Ralph Tyko, the weak link of it all from the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. How are you guys doing, Michael? Yourself?
I'm just fine.
Good.
Just fine.
That's the way it should be. We were talking a little off the air that in Northern California the weather is broken. It's a beautiful day, and we've had rain virtually every day for two weeks.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, how you made out up there.
It's just, I walk in the house. I walk from one room to another with the phone pacing like a caged cat, and that's my exercise. What can I tell you? It's
been that
if you
bad.
have a hankering to live in California, it's pretty much because of the weather, not the culture. That's how.
Oh, sure, I would think so too. Yeah.
And although Northern California has been good to me, I still appreciate the weather. Colds. Talking about the Bronx, I've been freezing cold in February in the Bronx. And here on a nasty day, it's like 50, 60 degrees.
Right.
So, no complaints.
Well, that's all we've been getting here. It's really it's a crazy winter. We've had 65, 66 degrees. The other day, my wife was driving with the top down. It was in the mid-60s.
Wow.
Yeah, and today it's like in the 40s, which is not too bad for the winter. If that's the worst it gets, that's acceptable. But we've had two.
One thing you're not telling folks, you guys don't have a convertible.
Yes, right.
There you go.
But the
weather's a little more ominous than David's letting on.
I didn't know you guys had a convertible.
Yeah, Becky fell in love with the car, and we've had it now a good number of years. It's just a beautiful Lexus convertible. Just a hardtop convertible. Yeah, it folds down like, those Transformer movies where they pop in and out, and it looks like a Transformer as it goes from hardtop to convertible. Windows moving.
Look at you guys.
Yeah, well, it's 2010. I mean, it's not like it's a brand new car.
He's still got to park it on opposite side of the street parking, so it's not all that great.
Only in the Bronx. We don't have it here.
Oh, okay. You don't have any of that here. All right. So I was talking to Michael a little bit off the air, and I said, what would you like to talk about? And I'm known for being a Trump hater, this, that, and the other thing. First thing that came to your mind, you weren't prodded by me, was Trump's demeanor lately. Is he delusional? I'll ask you, this is, we should put a date to this show. It's the 17th of February, 2019. And Trump was nice enough not to shut down the government for the second time. And I use nice in quotation marks.
Right.
But he is declaring a national emergency to get his fence built. And I'm thinking he's crazy to go out on stage, or not on stage, in front of everybody, and say, as he did yesterday, that it's no real emergency. I don't need it this quickly. It's basically for the election. I wanted to get it going a little bit faster, and then have the nerve to file an emergency. We do have emergencies in this country. There was another mass shooting the other day, Aurora, Illinois.
Yeah, Illinois.
5 people killed, 5 cops injured, and
6 if you include the shooter.
Yeah, that's exactly right. 6 if you include the shooter, who was basically just waiting for the cops to come in. So they could put him out of his misery. It's a crazy world. Why should we make it worse by allowing these guns? That's the emergency. There's an emergency with kids being separated from their parents at the border. These are human beings. You separate a kid from his parents, traumatize him, he's screwed for the rest of his life.
Could be, yes.
That's out of the news. It's like that never happened. You don't even hear about that anymore. And like you say, Ralph, that's it's such a horror. You know, if I think in a parallel world, Trump would be locked up in a room somewhere. You know,
right.
Like you say, this disillusional, crazy man just passes food on a tray under the door and leave him alone.
Right? Yeah.
He's the man in the orange-haired mask. He just belongs behind the door.
Well, you know, from time to time I ask guests on my podcasts what they predict the end game will be. Start with you, David. What do you think? How do you think it's going to end for us? Worst case scenario, the son of a bitch could be elected for another 4 years.
Yeah.
But
well, yeah. But you know what I keep thinking of are those almost 3 million votes that did not go to Trump. You know, and frankly, I think he's losing a good number of the electoral college votes that he got in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And he's playing strictly to his base, which isn't all that large. I honestly, I mean, I'm not doing any polling or anything, but his numbers are way down. He's put himself in a real hole by declaring a national emergency, because next week the Democrats are going to vote a resolution to say no, this is not a national crisis, and they're going to pass it, which means it has to go to the Senate for its version. And what happens there is that where the Republicans are in charge, they're caught in the horns of a dilemma, because there are a good number of Republicans in the Senate who do not want to be attached to this thing, because frankly, we don't even know if it's constitutional. And it's going to go through the courts, as even Trump acknowledged. And what I find most interesting is because it's definitely going to get up to the Supreme Court, and now with its definite, conservative swing, will these conservatives who insist on a strictly constitutional interpretation of the original the founding fathers, will they go against one of the basic principles of American government, and that is that all money bills start in the House. It's the Congress that disperses the money. And he is going around Congress to disperse the money himself. So will the Republicans go along with it? They're the rock-bound, hard constitutionalists. We'll see what happens. I think Trump has backed himself into a corner that he won't be able to get out of.
Well, what would happen if the Democrats became in power, if there was a Democratic president, and he or she decides to pull the same trick? Let's call a national emergency and take everybody's guns away.
Well, that's one of the fears, of course, that the Republicans would have, and some do, I assume, and that's one of the things that's in play here. I was just reading today, the Post had a good roundup of these things. There has never been a declaration of a national emergency that wasn't a national emergency. It's been used primarily for tremendous hurricanes or flooding or severe earthquakes. Natural disasters have created natural crises. and of course 9/11, which of course both houses immediately signed on to. But there's never been a national emergency that deals with a national emergency. You know, you want to add to the list, there's a measles epidemic out there in the West Coast and in a few other states because the moronic people are refusing to vaccinate their children.
Exactly.
And that's, you know, it's spreading in Washington State. There's been a couple of cases in Oregon. That could be a national emergency, far more so than the people who are stuck in Mexico and are trying legally to gain access to the U.S. It's preposterous. I know it's going to take a long time, but I know it's going to get to the Supreme Court, and it'll be very interesting to see how these 5 members who believe wholeheartedly in, you know, the originalists' construction, who set up the separation of the 3 branches. And will they remain originalist? If they do, then they should strike down Trump's moves. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah.
I watched a very interesting documentary on CNN last night about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Remember?
Oh yeah, I didn't see it. I taped it. I have not seen it yet.
You'll enjoy it on several different levels. One of the levels was the partnership she had with her husband, raising the kids and this, that, and the other thing.
There's also a biopic about it. I haven't seen that one either yet. I forget what the name of it is.
The basis of sex.
Yes, right. Yeah. I love the way it's a legitimate phrase from some particular law or other. I am not sure of the details, but getting the word sex in there is sure to bring in the audience.
Yeah, but
but as I said, it got good reviews. Speaking
the
of,
reason I brought the Ginsburg thing up, she is a member of the court, is not as liberal as you might think. She's conservative. You mentioned old line Constitution. I mean, she's right there.
She will not, believe me, when the votes come in, she'll be on the liberal side.
She'll be on the liberal side, but the documentary talked of how they make their decisions and how everything is discussed. And
well, yeah.
How much credence one judge plays to it. She'll be on the liberal side, but how much will she object? To this, clearly, this is gall. If he could get away with this, can't he get away with saying, we've been hacked by Russians, elections aren't safe, we're not going to have elections, we're just going to go on with the way it is?
If he gets away with this, like you say, then we're in big trouble.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course, and that would precipitate a constitutional crisis, and then he could definitely be impeached and convicted were that to happen.
What's interesting, and I don't know how much credence to pay to this guy. He's the guy who took over for Comey. Wrote a book, and he comes out this week, and he says there were some rumors of Amendment 25 being discussed.
Right.
But he comes out and he says, we were really talking about it. And Rosencrantz had denied it.
Rosenstein,
whatever.
Stein, actually.
Frankenstein. Reminds me of Mel Brooks, Frankenstein. In any event, they're coming close to, when I say they, I mean those who support him. The Republican Senate, for instance. As you mentioned, David, they're slowly turning around. They're going to have to go for re-election they're going to have
in 2020, yeah. Many of them.
May I ask you this? Is there a chance that the Republicans can run someone else without Trump's permission?
Well, they can run. Well, that would take they have to go through the primaries and win primaries. The way the system is now, it would have been much easier, perhaps, in the old system where they did it all behind closed doors. In they smoke-filled rooms, is the old cliche. But when you have, they made it now. There was someone who came forward. I forget who came forward.
Yeah, someone. That's right.
Yeah, who came
was it
forward?
Romney? Did Romney talk?
Well, no, Romney won a seat in the Senate, so he's not going to do it. But he talked. He badmouthed Trump. Yes, he did. And with good reason. But I forget who actually raised the issue. It might be what's his name? The senator from Florida who ran a close race against him the last time. Easy name to remember, and I can't remember it. But anyway, it could happen. It
would be nice with all the Democrats declaring for candidacy. It would be nice if a Republican or two.
Well, they might. Or somebody might. I don't think it's going. Don't forget. Robert Kennedy was going to challenge Jimmy Carter for his run for a second term, and then didn't. In fact, I was at a press conference with Jimmy Carter, and I asked him that question. And you know the old expression: I asked him if Robert Kennedy beat him out in the primaries, would he support him for president? And you know the old expression: if looks could kill, I would have been dead. A long time ago.
I'm confused a little. Say Robert Kennedy and Carter.
I'm sorry, Ted Kennedy.
That's what I thought.
Ted Kennedy. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Boy, I'll tell you what, that Chappaquiddick changed the history of our country.
Well, a lot of things did. The assassination of JFK changed the country. That's my starting point. But I have to say there was an interesting. That Amorosa Maragosa, whatever her name is, she had some interesting comments. She said, if you think you want to get rid of Trump, think again, because she said Pence is so much worse as would be as president, and she gave several examples of the craziness in his head. Much of it religion based. She said, from what she saw, she said you'll be thankful Trump was president.
Well, if you want to talk about religion and politics, you can get me to throw up.
No, that's what she said. That's what
Pelosi made a statement the other day about worshiping in God and this and that. Separating church and state is paramount. And I'll give you an example. The Clintons have heavy-duty Christian foundations. They put a lot of money into those things. You're right, Trump has no ideology.
No, not really. No, he has no religiosity either. He's not really religious. He talks he talks it up when he's among his brethren there, but he doesn't. The guy who's not religious at all.
And how how that community, the evangelistic community, can support this man with his moral compass spinning around wildly as we speak. It's crazy. That's what I don't understand about the voting public. I know people vote with their pocketbook. I've been told that all my life, which probably explains why Trump was elected in the first place, states that were doing so bad economically, but I didn't think they vote with their spirituality. And how is that spiritual?
Well, they do for two reasons. One, Roe v. Wade, which is Roe v. Wade is one, and the other is what's the other reason? It's fear of the stranger, xenophobia. And also you have to throw in Trump sopped to them by moving the embassy in Israel. I mean, the evangelicals love Israel. They just not because
they love the Jews. They want that little piece of land all to themselves.
No. They don't. What they want is, because they have a literal interpretation of their Bible, the only way that the Savior or the Messiah can return to earth is when all of the Holy Land is run by the Hebrews or the Jews. So whatever happens that's good for the Jews in Israel is one step forward toward this day of reckoning or day of redemption, when the Messiah will return, because now all Israel is in Jewish hands, all of that area. So that's their reasoning. They're not in love with Jews per se. These are the people that would turn their back on Jews if they. I mean.
Absolutely.
But that's their reasoning. It's a religious
reasoning comes from that book that was left out of the Bible but well read, the Mishigash of Christianity.
Yeah,
I mean, that's and they blame the Jew for things, for killing their Savior. So that's
right.
We're up against it from that standpoint.
Although that's been tempered a good bit these days. You don't hear that so much. Mainly, it's an anti-Semitism of ignorance, or just just by saying something. The same thing goes for Muslims. Muslims have the same problem now, because the interesting thing is that Semites are both Arabs and Jews. So when you say anti-Semitism, it's not just Judaism.
And it's a big desert. We go back thousands of years. Mm-hmm. We have mixed with people, and it's all become one. I wish this world would, we could skip ahead 2,000 years and be all of us gray and not have one world, and everybody taking care of each other, and all this waste of energy and armament and craziness. We're too old for this. We've seen it, 70 years in my case of watching this thing go from bad to worse. It's very frustrating.
Going back to our initial topic, which was Mr. Trump, what embarrasses me so much is that the cohort of Trump supporters are people of our age more than any other group.
Yeah.
I mean, we may not qualify because a lot of them are the way they phrase it is non-college educated white middle class people and they usually add not from the cities, from the suburban areas. Basically, that's us. we're in that group in terms of age, education, that sort of thing. And these are these are people we grew up with, and they're just crazy.
Hey, 48% of the people you see on the bus route go for him.
What bus?
I'm very uncomfortable in society, knowing that.
Not the number 5 bus that goes down the Grand Concourse. There's only
30%.
I never took that bus.
You needed a special bus pass. You remember those pictures of the kids, the guys climbing in the windows? The bus that took you from Clinton on down the concourse. All these guys going back home. In the end of the day, they wouldn't wait to go in through the front door and show their pass to the driver. The guys coming in the windows.
Speaking of the Bronx for a few moments, for a minute, I was talking to a friend yesterday who I've known for, almost 50 years, something like that, 40 years. Anyway, and we hadn't talked in a long time, 10 years or so. And he said to me, and as a compliment, he said that I haven't changed my way of that I'm a New Yorker. That I sound like. Now, have David or Ralph, have people said that to you guys? Do you still get that, or?
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's one way or another. They'll say, "Where are you from?" And if I say New York, they'll say, "I knew it." Or then the other way is they say, "You're from New York, aren't you?" And I said, "Well, actually, Dubuque, Iowa." But they don't get that. But yeah,
I get. Say Montana. I say Montana.
Oh, Montana's good. Yes.
Well, I'll just express it. Where you're from? From the South. The South, they'll say. So yes, South Bronx.
Yeah. Right.
But
I guess it's not going to change at this age.
No. We're stuck with it.
Wear it as a badge of honor.
Speaking of the Bronx, I saw something very interesting that I couldn't wait to share. Every once in a while on Turner Movie Classics, they have a silent movie, and I caught the last half hour, so maybe 40 minutes of this. It was a Harold Lloyd film called Speedy. And it's a silent movie, and it's about the plot is just sort of crazy. The girl he's in love with, her father drives the last of the horse-drawn streetcar in the city. Anyway, and she's in love with Babe Ruth. She thinks Babe Ruth is the greatest. But she's never seen, she's never really met him. Anyway, there's a scene where Harold Lloyd he drives a car, and a cab, and he winds up on a street, and I forget. Oh, I know what. Yeah, there was a crowd around Babe Ruth, and he was signing autographs in this movie. And Ruth has to get to Yankee Stadium for the game. So he hails a cab, and of course it's Harold.
Wow.
And what I missed was, because I looked this up later, what I missed was there was a brief shot of Lou Gehrig looking into the car window where Ruth was sitting in the seat in the cab, and he sticks his tongue out at Babe Ruth. Now, and I missed that. I didn't catch it. I was so in awe, fascinated by seeing. So anyway, Harold Lloyd takes him on this madcap drive, zipping in and out of cars and and Babe Ruth is bouncing on the rear seat. It's pretty funny because he's obviously the only one in this cab, and it's done sort of sped up action here, and he's zipping in. Right. You've seen that in all those old silent movies.
Oh,
and
sure.
he gets into Yankee Stadium, and I was fascinating because it really, now 1923, the stadium was only 2 years old. So it was brand new. And there it was. I mean, he does get out at Yankee Stadium. And they said in the story of the movie that a lot of it was filmed in Hollywood, but for those certain scenes, they went to New York to go on location, as they say. It was fascinating.
That is
What is the name of the movie?
Speedy.
Speedy. Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's on YouTube.
I don't know. I didn't see the beginning of it, but I mean, it was really funny because he looked really good, of course, in 1920. I mean, and that was another thing that made this movie so interesting. It was 1 year after his great 1927 movie when he hit 60 home runs, and the Yankees had one of the great teams ever.
Right, Murderers Row, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's just a fantastic piece of history, if you want to look at it that way.
Oh, sure.
I'd love to have a picture of Lou Gehrig sticking his tongue out.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't catch that at all because my eyes were on Babe Ruth in the cab. But the little anecdote about it said that he made a very, very brief cameo appearance. But it was just remarkable. I wonder
why they had Gehrig sticking his tongue out, and why didn't he get in the cab? It doesn't. Maybe he was just there and he was kind of fooling around.
I think that's more like it. I think that's yeah. I think so. I don't think it was scripted. I just looked this up
for a second, and it said it was Harold Lloyd's last silent film to be released theatrically.
Yeah, that's another milestone about this particular film.
Mm-hmm.
Because it had to be one of the last of the silent movies anyway. Because the Jazz Singer was 1927.
Right,
so,
exactly.
So, I mean, it was right on the cusp of sound and brand new Yankee Stadium. And they didn't show the inside. It was just the outside. But the facade was definitely the old facade that many of us knew. Second homes.
Oh, yeah. I miss those days of Yankee Stadium.
Well, you're a bit far away.
Not just far away. It was the original Yankee Stadium. It means an awful lot from that standpoint. They changed it. Yeah, I mean, it's still Yankee Stadium technically, but not the same. Not the same.
Well, no, the outfield is smaller for one thing. Mm-hmm. And it's right.
Much smaller.
Yeah, it's right across the street.
They don't have the monuments out in center field like they did. I thought that was really special.
Well, that's when they only had 3, I mean, they couldn't put all those plaques they have out there now in the field. But they are sort of on the field. They're in that area there. I haven't been through it. I've only been up to the stadium, I guess, once. I think once or twice. Anyway, they have them before the game. People can wander through the area and see it, which is a little better than being able to see it 3 monuments on the. But if you recall, you could after the game you could go out through the center field exits and walk across the outfield grass, and you could stop by the monuments and read them because it was right out there in center field.
Right.
Oh yeah, and they opened that big old gate to get out, and you just as a kid they wouldn't let you on the infield. Once in a while you'd see somebody running the bases.
That's true.
That kind of thing. But the ushers generally wouldn't allow that. But for a kid to stand out there in center field, on your way home, and realize this is where Mick was standing about 10 minutes ago, that kind of thing.
Yes.
That was a big part of the game.
It was.
It was going through the game.
Yeah. And what used to impress me so much standing out there was the height of the stands. It was this massive, massive structure. And I think it still is, because the stands are built the same way as in the old ballpark. But it seemed to me, and there was another thing, standing out there. Yeah, this is where Mick stands, but how the hell does he see that ball to go after it? I mean,
exactly.
There's so many people
between deep center field and home plate is much more than you imagine it.
Oh yes, and the ball is like a pea, as it comes out of. It's remarkable that anyone can catch a fly ball.
Agreed. That it just, as you guys are talking, just trying to imagine it. Yeah, you're so far away, and the ball isn't hit right at you. I mean, sometimes it is, but these guys who then be going to their right or left or making these diving catches, that's really something.
I say that's one of the
elements involved. I remember Yankee Stadium being very, very tough on left fielders. A number of
because of the sun. Yeah.
The sun. Seaburn ran into some problems, and
Berra did too when he played left field there.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Don't remember that. I remember he would platoon with Hector Lopez at the end of his career in 61.
Hector Lopez. Oh, boy.
What a pair
of hands. Is that a name? Hector, they called him Hector, what a pair of hands, Lopez.
They did. That's true. Yeah. That was during the down years, down years, early 70s.
Well, no. That Lopez was there in 61 when I think they had, and this is arguable, the best team they ever had. They had Maris and Mantle going for the home run.
Oh, they did. They had a great team that year. Great pitching, everything. I mean, it's arguably that and the 39 team is another one that people. There were 3, 27, 39, and 61 that all can.
And you can't give the 49 to 53.
Yeah, that's true too.
5 in a row. You can't give them short shrift. They had Mantle, Berra, and DiMaggio early on in that streak.
Oh, yeah. Through 51, yeah.
It's a team with memories. There's no question about that.
Now, you could do the same thing at the Polo Grounds, I remember. You could actually walk out through center field.
Absolutely,
you couldn't go up the stairs to the clubhouse back there by the big Chesterfield sign. But you could walk out through the outfield.
Gates.
Yeah,
they'd open the gates literally below the clubhouse. Where those stairs go up.
Right.
And what kid would not look up there and want to be in a clubhouse with Leo DeRocher and Willie Mays and what have you?
Now, if you went the other way, as I recall, if you went out behind home plate, they had this little tiny room. It really was small, and that's where they did the televised post-game show with Frankie Frisch. And you could stand in the doorway there, and this bright light, because the TV cameras in those days were so poor, so they had to light this room like it was on fire. And he would have a guest in from the team, and they would give these players these like $25 watches or some ridiculous cheap gift to appear on the show. But I remember standing there and watching it a few times when I went out the other way.
Frankie Frisch, the Fordham Flash.
Right.
There you go.
That was his nickname. So speaking of the Bronx. So I got to ask you guys, not to avoid the question, what do you think the end game is going to be? Michael, how is this all going to come down with Trump?
How is it going to come down?
No right or wrong, just your personal opinion. How is it all going to end for the Trump legacy?
Oh, the legacy, the worst.
That's the word, right? Legacy. For the Trump disaster, how about that?
God knows. I'm a pessimist. I think the guy has a very good chance of winning in 2020, and our nightmare will not end because there are just so many people out there. I know you say the polls, it's down, but they're out there. They're hiding in the woods, and it scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, well, if they stay in the woods, that'll be fine. You know, if they come out to vote, that's another thing.
Yeah. I don't know how it's it better, you know, when you ask how it's going to end, it better end in a good way, because otherwise we're in trouble.
We're really in.
Yeah.
We're in deep trouble if it goes on like this.
I'd love to see him be a one-term president, because nothing would stick in his craw more than losing the presidency. He was content to lose the election, but to lose the re-election would really piss him off.
Right, and to lose to a woman would really be nice if he lost to a woman, and a woman of color like Kamala Harris. That would be sweet. Just revenge for the guy.
There's the other side that we have to look at, is like already there's going to be a debate on one of the stations. I guess a debate with the people who have announced their candidacy, and like, why so early, and why knock each other off? I mean, because it just, what am I trying to say? I know what I'm trying to, it just makes Trump look better, have all these Democrats saying bad things about each other. And
well, not only are they splintered, they're splintered in ideology between progressive and non-progressive Democrats.
Yeah. And he can just sit back and just watch them beat each other up.
Yeah, well, you know, that happens each time, and there's some legitimacy to it. But I think in the end, when they coalesce around one candidate, it all sort of falls by the wayside. And I think there's going to be far more unity this time around than there was last time. And it seems to me that, the fact that there are so many candidates already is an indication of how much dislike there is out there of Trump. I mean, already we've got about 4 or 5, which is so unusual for so early in the system, in the campaign.
I think there's more.
Yeah, there could be. I'm not sure the numbers. Yeah.
Many more at this point, and some still undeclared. There's rumors.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I mean, it's so early, there's going to be more. And I know it seems far away, but there's no front runner. There's no. I don't know. There's nobody to go, oh, that's the person we can hope will lead us. But there really isn't.
I just hope the primaries are fair this time. I say what you want about Bernie, socialist this, that. He was screwed out of the primaries. He should have been the candidate, and it's my contention he would have kicked Trump's ass.
Oh, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, anyone would have. So would have, and Biden certainly would have too. And I remember you talk about a bunch of people on the bus. I was when Becky and I took that Western tour on Coach. the one night we were in a Colorado area there, and we all watched the first debate, and to a man and to a woman there from the bus, everyone thought Trump just was awful, just terrible, that the election was in the bag. And these people came from all over the country, so it was a very small sampling, but it was a wide, diversified sampling. And no one thought Trump had any chance. He sounded stupid. What else is new? And he bullied her, walked around to her, which it was never supposed to happen.
Oh yes, stood up on stage just stalked her.
Yeah, right, and upstaged her and things. And so look what happened. But I think the Republicans. I'm hoping. Let's put it this way too. The Republicans will go with the same script they had the last time because it worked, and the Democrats will not go with the same script because Clinton ran such a terrible campaign. So they've learned from that. I'm hoping that that's how it turns out, and that whoever runs, it could be Fido the dog, get my vote. And I really do believe. I mean, that story about Rumpelstiltskin, where they finally give him his name, and he's so angry that he screws himself into the ground.
Oh yes, yeah. Oh,
yeah. And of course, the princess has to guess his name, and I forget the story, the line so much. But anyway, I just remember that he got so angry and he screwed himself into the ground. And I think that's what. Well, I don't think he'll screw himself into the ground literally, but Trump will be so angry because, and of course, he'll try to create a story around it that he really didn't lose, that it was stolen from him, kind of thing, like this one was, because even though he won, how many there were of those 3 million voters that didn't vote for him? They were mostly illegal aliens.
Right.
He's told that.
Just waiting for the Mueller report. I think that'll change the complexion of.
Yeah, I think you're right too. We didn't even mention that. You're right.
No, how much longer will this go on until it?
Well, he's making progress.
Yeah.
Fighting everybody and their dog. It's and they're coming close. They've got the guy from Florida. I can't think of his name right now. They've got him connected with WikiLeaks.
Roger Stone, you mean?
Roger Stone, who is like a cartoon character.
Yes.
Just, not that they're all not Looney Tunes, but so we'll see. We'll see. We're coming to the end, guys. Thank you for a great show.
Oh.
Okay.
Wow, that was fast.
Yeah, it was.
Well,
yeah.
It does go fast, but I'm just looked down. We're 50 minutes into it.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay.
Anything either of you want to say? Anything on your mind? Oh, I have something on my mind. You mentioned a bus trip that you took. I don't fly, so I'm always looking for alternative ways to get cross-country when I do. Taken Amtrak, I've taken the Greyhound, I've driven my van.
Weren't you in the Air Force?
Yes,
or the Army?
I was in the Air Force and flew in the Air Force. I worked in base supply, which we would supply maintenance with parts to fix the airports, the airplanes. And I got to see firsthand how they scramble around for stuff and how safety wasn't the most important thing on their minds. So that's
like visiting a sausage factory,
Exactly. You know how things are made. You'll never eat another hot dog.
Right.
Oh wow. Oh God.
And
well, this was a bus trip that it started out. We flew to Chicago, and from Chicago we took the train to Grand Junction, Colorado. So there was some flying involved.
This wasn't a bus. This was a train.
But the train took us to Grand Junction. Oh, it was an overnight train from Chicago, and then we got the coach, and we went around the Four Corners area of Utah, Colorado, and New Mexico.
Very
fascinating. It sounds like it was.
Yeah, it was great. It was terrific. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Good. Thank you again, both of you.
Okay. We'll see you next week.
We'll do it next week. Please stay healthy.
You too.
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for listening
and dry.
to the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. And Michael Preminger, David Hubler, Ralph Tyko, Bronx Roots. Adios, everybody. The proceeding was a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production. Thank you for listening.